You're a little blurry. The same problem that usually happens.
Good
Blurs
evening.
are yeah.
Welcome to Shop Talk, everybody. We are here as part of the Triangle Area SQL Server Users Group. Mala threw me off. Normally I get that cold intro, but instead we're going warm intro tonight. So Mala, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Excellent. It's the end of July. I think we can have one warm opening, and then we'll go back to cold openings forever. Unfortunately, Mike is ill. Tracy is currently, I think she's serving as a diplomat in Eastern Asia. We'll find out when she's back on the show again. But if this is your first time, welcome to Shop Talk. The idea of Shop Talk is it's Monday, hopefully in the evening for you, maybe the late afternoon, and we're just here to kick back, relax, and talk a little SQL Server and data platform related items. This is, as always, a chat driven show, which means if you've got questions, drop them in chat. We'll talk about them. We may even give you answers. They might even be correct answers. That's just how things roll. So, speaking of rolling, let's roll right on to our first topic. And the first thing I wanted to mention, so our hosts at Tech Systems, who are responsible for hosting our main meeting every third Tuesday of the month, wanted me to talk about a job opening that they've got. And they didn't say anything about, hey, talk to us on Shop Talk, but I figured, you know what? I'm talking about it. So if you're in the Triangle area, Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina area, there is an opening. Specifically, it's with the North Carolina Department of, I think it's Public Instruction, DPI. And mostly it's working on Oracle related stuff. So, it's got that going against it. But if you happen to be an Oracle developer and you want to work for the organization that deals with K through 12 in North Carolina, it is a part time role, and they are looking at some capacity, like 75% remote. But basically, if you have PLSQL skills, reach out to me. You can send an email, that email address right down there, shoptalk@tripass.org. You can hit me up on Meetup, meetup.com/tripass, and you'll be able to find me there. But if you're interested in more details about the job, happy to forward it along. And if you want to know where you can get, where you'd be able to submit for the job, just talk to me and I can give you those details. But wanted to do a kindness to the Tech Systems folks who are looking to fill that job, and maybe before the school year begins, but we'll see. So that was topic number one, but that's all the jobs I've got. If you know people who are looking to hire, you can also reach out. We can talk about those. I don't necessarily want this to be a major job board, but I figure if there are people in our community who say, "Hey, my company is hiring," then it'd be good to know some of this information. So, next thing I want to mention is the Carolina Code Conference. So, as it sounds like, it's not a SQL conference, and so I do want to make that up front. It is a code conference. It is in Greenville, South Carolina, and will happen on August 19th, which is it's a Saturday, I believe. Oh no, August 19th it is a Saturday. Okay, I still had July's calendar up. It's so weird considering the month is July. But before we go too much further on that, yeah, Mala is looking. She's looking for somebody in the Louisville, Kentucky area. And so you want to talk a little bit about that position, Mala?
Yeah, it's Kentucky. It is a position, a DBA lead position at Churchill Downs, the place that runs the annual Derby. It's a really interesting, fun environment to work for. It's a gambling data related database, and managing it. It's a unique environment. Lots of good challenges for anyone who wants to go. My boss, Dan Pop, who I used to work for many years ago, he has taken over as chief data officer. He's the person hiring, and he is a very nice person to work for. So those are the pros. The cons, unfortunately, is that it's old-fashioned. Most of Louisville is like that. I'm not surprised they went back to 100% in person. But they have. So you have to be located there. Louisville is a very affordable little town, by the way. Among the best towns you want to live in if your goal is to save some money and have a decent life. It's a good place that way. But that's what I have about it. I doubt anyone in our audience is interested. But in the remote chance that you happen to be, please let me know. I'll be happy to recommend you to him. He's desperately looking for someone. He's having challenges too with finding talent with 100% in person, but that's not his choice. That's a management decision they made, and they're looking to hire. That's it.
Yep. So if you are in the Louisville area or maybe interested in moving there, reach out to Mala. She can put you in touch with the person who's hiring. So Carolina Code Conference, as I mentioned, the blog is here, blog.carolina.codes, and this is, I believe, this is the first year that this conference is being held. So wanted to give it a shout out. It also happens to be the first official conference that I have sponsored and put money into. So I am shilling a little bit on their behalf for that reason, but also because it is a conference that is in the Carolinas. It's coming up fairly soon. You can see what the schedule looks like. Basically, they'll have sessions running 9:30 a.m. through about 4:45 p.m. I get a half-hour slot that happens at 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Is there a
This
remote option to attend, Kevin?
only in person, so
In
this
person.
is in person only. They won't have. They'll have the recordings made available after the fact, so it may come out in a month or so.
Uh-huh.
But tickets are free for the 2023 event, but they are limited in total number. So I don't know how many tickets are available. But if you're interested, go check that out, and you can get.
Carolina.com.
So yeah,
Nice logo. Then nice logo with I really like it. It's pretty.
but that's the Carolina Code Conference. I do recommend at least looking into that because hopefully it'll be a regular ongoing event, especially knowing that code events in the Carolinas have really taken a long-term hiatus. The .NET user group has tried a couple of times to get things back going, but there's just so much inertia that it's really hard to get people back in place. We're experiencing that as well with our in-person sessions where it's hard to get people in seats. And so that's been a challenge. And I know that Charlotte has just started back up their SQL user group, and so we hope that they're doing well. But we're kind of seeing a lot of groups that were here in the Carolinas that just aren't anymore, and so I'm always going to root for an event that's happening that's relevant to our interests, and even if tangentially relevant, because if you look at the sessions, you're talking a lot about Ruby on Rails, testing systems, project design. I have one on anomaly detection, but there is Snowflake. So in case you're interested about Snowflake, there is a session on that. But this is definitely a broader based code conference versus a data platform conference, and something to keep in mind. Also knowing that it's just one track, which means that if you don't like what a session is, well, you don't really have too many other options. You could ignore that session, I'm sure, but harder to say, oh, well, I don't particularly like Ruby on Rails because I prefer COBOL on wheelchair, which, by the way, is a real thing. I'm gonna dig this up for everyone. This is a micro web framework for COBOL, and actually is still active.
Hmm.
It is called COBOL on wheelchair, and
Oh wow. Oh my, that's a thing.
It is a real thing. They used to have a logo that was a T-Rex in a wheelchair, and it was struggling. Its little arms were struggling to reach the wheels. But yeah, it is legitimately COBOL that is a platform for websites. Is it safe? No, no, it's not safe. First of all, you know, it is. You are living in the COBOL world. Um, it does partially work, however. So I mean, it's got that going for it. Um, so yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
you can have some fun with COBOL images. Here's the logo. Yeah, there we are. That's the official logo of this web platform.
Interesting. There's something to play with on the weekend.
Ha!
Thanks, dude.
Let me. I'll drop a link to that in chat in case anybody wants to become a contributor. Note that there's currently a pull request, but there are some issues if you want to help fix the problems with COBOL on wheelchair. Um, all right. Next, this is an article that Mala dropped in chat just not too long ago, so I haven't had a chance to do more than glance through it and come up with some snarky quips. But this is a Microsoft Work Lab article about work trends, and the question is, will AI fix work? And I do want to point out, Betteridge's law of headlines says anytime you have a headline that can be answered yes or no, the answer is usually no. This is
Hmm.
not my. It's not something I came up with. Surprisingly, it's a real thing. Let me
So what
share.
I liked about this article is not particularly AI related. I like the if you scroll down, there is a visual that says the weight of the workday with the balance of work hours spent communicating. 68% of people say they don't have enough uninterrupted focus during the workday. I thought that was interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, so this
Um,
is what Milo was
mhm,
mentioning.
yeah.
Welcome in, Anders. Good to see you.
And
Um,
the top five obstacles to productivity. I totally agree with this. Totally 100% agree with this.
all
Uh,
right,
Having,
so
yeah.
yeah, let's go through the article in a little detail. I'll scan it while pretending that I know what it's talking about.
Hmm.
Mala will jump in as well. But will AI fix work? My short answer is no. But let's find out why my answer will be no, because that's how we do things here. I let you know my bias up front, and then we figure out how to reconnoiter and rephrase things up to the point where my bias actually makes sense. Because that's what we do on Shop Talk. So general idea is AI can help lift the burden. Maybe, maybe. But the general idea here is that a lot of people waste a lot of time at work on things that are unnecessary, things that are just unproductive. And the question is, can you remove those unproductive things? To what extent can you remove those unproductive things? And can you remove the drudgery of work and unleash creativity? The answer is no, and just make my latte how I told you to. Um, so yeah, I'm on point. I'm already on tilt tonight. But let's see how far on tilt we can be. So okay, they surveyed 31,000 people in 31 countries. Not an enormous sample size, but let's go with it. Analyzed trillions of productivity signals in M365 and looked at labor trends in the LinkedIn economic graph. So let's see what they say. Digital debt costing us innovation. So digital debt is all of those data, emails, meetings, notifications. Yeah, there's a lot of waste there. I mean, I will say that when I had notifications turned on my phone, I would get message. I actually timed this where I would get something like 40 or 50 messages every 20 minutes. If I spent my time, if it was 20 seconds to analyze a message and figure out if it's important or not, I would do nothing in my day except analyze those messages. Now, in a lot of cases, I can say, nope, 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 don't care, don't care. And many of those messages were not work related. It was just every app on your phone has to send you 45 notifications a minute. And so it got to the point where phone's on silent. I'm ignoring all those messages and I check it every half hour or so. And then we see all of the threads that people came up with where everybody's panicking and I'm just ignoring it for half an hour because my phone was down. And then I jump in and continue ignoring it because I didn't need to jump in on that thread. Managerial debt is a better word. It may be. It may be managerial. Bureaucratic debt. It might be. That might be more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes,
Mm-hmm.
it can be your manager. It can also just be the system where, in order for things to be correct, we must do things in this way. And instead of having any sort of flexibility, no, you must follow the system. You must fill out Form 374 in triplicate. All right. Everything feels important, so we spend our workdays trying to get out of the red. 64% of people struggle with having the time or energy to do their job, and they struggle with innovation and strategic thinking. I can believe that. I can believe that, but I think a lot of this is just a lot of people are bad at their jobs.
Mm-hmm. That too. Yeah.
Or at least do not come to the workplace with the expectation of I'm going to optimize my job for success. In a lot of cases, your job is not to think but to do. I mean, in a lot of cases, yeah, that is true. That look, I have my joke with the barista there, but in a lot of cases, that's what you're getting paid for. If there's any sort of creative output, it is potentially a positive surplus effect, but at the end of the day, I'm hiring the person in the mail room to sort the mail, not to come up with a brilliant idea of perpetual motion machines. So, what do people spend a lot of their time on? Meetings, email, chat. This is specifically Microsoft applications that they spend their time in. And then 43% of the time is in M365 tools. So the question is, all right, is that a bad thing? I don't know that that's a bad thing. Some of it, yeah, if you're responding to pointless emails because this is the way things must happen, it can suck, but maybe your job is to respond to those emails. Like if you are a customer service person and you're receiving these emails, part of your job is to respond to those emails and provide service to customers. If you're,
That
yep, go for it.
that and also I'm not sure how any kind of an automated tool can fix the fact that some people are just poor communicators.
True.
Some people say too much, and some people don't want to say anything at all. And people are given to various dysfunctions, such as hoarding work, or just pretending that they're working and doing something else. And all of these things, this may seem on the surface like it's a communication issue, but it's actually deeper than that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
Yeah,
completely agree.
yeah.
So from this visual, okay, a lot of people are spending time in communication. They're communicating with other humans versus working on their own on specific tools. Um, as a former developer and current data platform person, that is a scary idea of having to communicate to other people. But it turns out that in a lot of roles, that is actually an important thing.
Hmm.
People don't have enough uninterrupted focus time during the workday, and I mean, I just call it nap time. We can call it nap time. We don't have to call it focus time. Let's not raise it up to more than what it is. But time spent in meetings has steadily increased over the past few years. I do think that's true. I think that one of the downsides of a lot of remote work is people schedule formal meetings for things that previously were water cooler chats or 2-minute discussions. And so instead of let me walk over to your desk and have a 2-minute discussion, it is let's get time on everybody's calendar. It's a 30-minute meeting. We spend the first 7 minutes waiting for everyone to get in. Oh, I'm sorry, I got pulled in from a prior meeting. Hang on, I can't hear you. Your microphone's busted. 10 minutes of that. And then let me spend 5 minutes trying to figure out how to share something. And this is just my meetings. So, what was a 2-minute discussion, which in office you would not call that a meeting, but it still was a meeting, has to turn into a formal meeting that stretches a lot longer. And I think that's part of why people spend a lot more time officially in meetings, because prior to that, you just have people come over and chat 5 minutes talking about the ball game last night or about whatever show's hot on television. And then, oh, by the way, the TPS report. Whereas now you have to make it into the formal meeting.
Yeah.
So, they struggle with too much time spent searching for information in their workday. I mean, that's just a problem of SharePoint sucks for search. We saw that image where they spend 57% of their time communicating, 43% creating. Maybe. Hey, now, I usually talked about something data related. To Mala's point, I work hard at pretending I'm working. It's a skill, right? I knew a guy at a prior job who I swear put more hours working on avoiding work than would actually have been required to do the work itself. Person could have just done the work. Maybe that would take 20 hours, but that person would take 30 hours trying to come up with a way to avoid doing 20 hours of work. Anders does the opposite. He works really hard at being lazy. Spend that 10
He
hours.
just takes off. He just takes time off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spend the 10 hours automating the process and then kick up your legs and kick up your feet on the desk and sit around for 30 hours. Heaviest email users spend 8.8 hours per week on email. Okay. And heaviest meeting users spend 7.5 hours per week in meetings. That's it. I mean, that feels low. That feels really low. Even if you're saying at the 25th percentile, or excuse me, the 75th percentile and up, 8 hours a week in meetings isn't very much. I mean, you figure you've got, you have your daily stand-up, and you've got like 2 other meetings, and that's already pushing you at 5 hours, so that's putting you beyond the midpoint. I don't know, that's weird. Worked at places that stopped automation because they thought the DBAs were too lazy.
No, they thought whatever work the DBAs were doing would go away, and that would put them in a position where they didn't have enough work to fill their time. And it was the old-fashioned way of thinking that 7 hours or 8 hours every day has to be filled with mechanical work. And
Right.
yeah, but yeah, I've been in places like that. The thing I wanted to automate was deployment, because in the days when I was a DBA, we did a lot of what we call code monkeying. All we
Mm-hmm.
did was to deploy scripts that developers made. So that took up a considerable amount of time. I wanted to automate it, and my boss said, "What are you going to do if that goes away?" Like, really? Seriously? No, yeah, no, there's 3 of you. What would you do if that goes away? That's what you do, 3 or 4 hours a day. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Because then, like Anders points out, as I explained to one manager when he caught me reading a book at my desk, you should worry if I'm typing away at my keyboard and have a shiny head, not if I'm reading at my desk. Exactly. So this also depends on having an atmosphere where you have operational analytics, where you have good ideas of what your systems are doing, and if you're in this sort of administrative role. So if you know that things are moving smoothly, you have insights into it, and you can tell when things stop moving smoothly. Yeah, that's where an operations center should be kind of low key and a little more goofing off than you would expect in other circumstances. Sure, keep an eye on people, make sure their hours are filled with mechanical work, or the butts in seats mentality where you're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
working unless I physically see you working.
Mm-hmm.
And that that kind of attitude annoys me a lot because of it's just an innate lack of trust. And it makes me say, okay, so does that mean you're not working when someone's not watching you? Because if that's true, that's a pretty indicting statement. So, all right, top 5 obstacles to productivity. Number one, managers. Number one, having inefficient meetings. I agree with that. I mean, I joked about the teams meeting of we're going to spend the first 15 minutes trying to sort out all the problems. We'll spend the next 15 minutes arguing with each other, trying to talk over each other, and then having to stop. Where Mala's going to try to get a word in edgewise, and we're both going to stop, and then I'm going to assume that she stopped so I can speak, and we'll both speak again, and we'll just do that little duet for a little bit, and then once we hit the 30-minute mark, now we need to really talk about the topics that I mentioned. And so that's going to bleed over, except that half the people are leaving. So we're going to spend the next 10 minutes trying to sort out what's the next good meeting time for everybody so that we can have the 30-minute discussion so that we could do the 2-minute meeting that really needed to happen. So Linda says there are industries where that is the only way work is perceived. They would rather have you in the office for 8 hours, despite the fact that it may take you 3 hours to get whatever you need done. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. I think I'm a bit of a curmudgeon, so a lot of things are going to come back to the evils of Taylorism, but I think it's Taylorism. I think it's the insidious effort to measure, analyze, and process every action that hit manufacturing. What was that? 200 years ago almost, and has been with us ever since in a negative fashion. And I think that there are. This is where some of it comes down. Where if I am the managerial overlord staring from my one-way mirror down at the factory floor employees, that's the only way that I can tell that they're going to fill the boxes, because otherwise they'll not fill any of the boxes. And where that notion bleeds over far too much. Biggest productivity in my boost at my company was when I no longer had to go to the office. Not my productivity, but everybody else's. That is true. We didn't get caught up in 30-minute discussions with you, Anders. I had invites for 3 jobs in the past month, 1 hybrid, 2 back to 100% in person, all the same philosophy. Yeah, that's probably becoming more regular again. I do miss all the problems I
I
saw.
heard a line on one of the podcasts I was listening to. I don't remember if it is this work lab or somewhere else. Um, there was a psychiatrist who was saying that the pandemic took a sense of control away from a lot of people, and when that is gone, then everybody is now out and about making strong rules. Like all the employers are saying, 100% we want you back. There is no relaxing the rules, anything. And people are saying, we quit. We've had enough. We're done. Everybody in the end, everybody wants to show that we have control. We are making our rules and we are in charge again. So that seemed like an interesting observation. I think some of that is actually true.
Could be. I could see some of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But a lot of people are walking away from jobs. I personally, in the 27 years I've lived in this country, I haven't seen a lot of that, and it's happening more than I've ever seen before.
hmm.
People quitting without anything lined up ahead. That's happening a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
that definitely happened quite a bit over the past couple of years. I don't know if it's going to continue happening
Uh-huh.
because as as the number of jobs gets a little bit tighter, and we have seen over the past year or so, it's become a lot harder to hire. So there aren't as many job openings available, and especially if working remotely is an important thing for you, then that's an added challenge. But knowing all of this, I don't know. We'll see. There could still be more waves of people just up and quitting, saying I'm done with this. So Andrew says, my company CEO, absolutely not. We're not going back to the office. Then she terminated 60% of our office space. Saved a lot of money too in the process. And it's one of the things where, for most of our jobs, most of the time, we don't need to be in person. It doesn't really matter where you're typing away at that keyboard to get the work done. There are specific positions where, yes, you have to be on site. I mean, if you're a teacher, yes, you have to be in the classroom. It just doesn't work very well with the telestrator. If you're working in manufacturing, yeah, you've got to be physically at the plant to be able to deal with the whatever you're dealing with, whether that's the QA person who's checking quality of product as it goes down the line, performing repairs, performing adjustments. Most of that stuff, even the stuff that is computer automated, you may still have to be physically in there because it's on a local network. It's not They're not going to have it be VPN accessible or whatever. So don't mind working in an office, to be honest, but like with any job, there are pros and cons. Salary requirements are adjusted for sure, for sure. I Not a joke. When I took my job, when I had worked at Channel Advisor, part of the reason I took that job was that I got to wear shorts, t-shirts and shorts to work every day. That was worth $12,000 a year to me. I actually had a monetary value on how much I was willing to give up to wear shorts to work. Wearing a tie, add 10K. Exactly. Yeah. Similar idea. Telling ex-bosses, you have a lot of a supervised culture. We're done. I mean, really done. So yeah, those are all the sorts of subjective analyses that I think people should do when they're looking for jobs. That yeah, there is no perfect job for everybody. This is what are you willing to deal with? What are your quirks? And sole DBA plus 15K if on call is required. Yes, you might be underselling that.
Yeah, Anders. Very surprising coming from Anders that the number is that low.
Right. My base is high. Even so.
So one of those job openings I was saying about, that person ended up hiring a full stack person in place of a DBA, and he called me to ask the pros and cons of that. And what I was telling him is that maybe that person can do some database programming for you, but a DBA work is not that. You realize there's a reason why DBAs are paid highly, and they have special skills, and full stack people are not DBAs. So I said, if you want to find out what he can and cannot do the hard way, and he may be one of those people who's very adaptable. I can't speak to that. There are people who are like that. Nothing against any of that, but full stack people are not DBAs. So just understand that, and I don't think I would even recommend hiring them for a full data job, 100% data job of any sort, a database engineer or whatever, even the kind of jobs I do. Those are data jobs, and there's a reason they call data jobs. But whatever, that's all I could get for the limitations I have. Okay, so that's another direction the world is going. Like, if you can't find data people, go hire, a software developer or somebody who has a little data experience somewhere, and hope that they'll measure up. That's all.
Yeah, or you start off with that and you try to build a person up, but it can be difficult, especially if that's the only person.
I had no idea about child labor laws relaxed and all of that. That's interesting what Solomon is saying. No idea. So what, you can employ 14 and 15-year-olds?
I know that
Wow.
historically, farm labor has typically been exempted. Uh, as far as hiring 14 and 15-year-olds, I don't know. I haven't had to pay attention to that in a long time. Haven't been 14 in a little while.
Well, they can do prompt engineering. I know that much.
So, all right, having inefficient meetings, yeah, I can buy that. Lacking clear goals, I can buy that. Too many meetings, yeah, sure. Feeling uninspired, that's a personal problem. Not finding information that I need, probably a personal problem, probably a SharePoint problem. So it's difficult to brainstorm at a virtual meeting or catch up if they join a meeting late. Next steps at an end of a meeting are unclear. It's hard to summarize what happens. A lot of that is just do have your meetings be better. Plan meetings out better. Have I I am a firm believer in the Jeff Bezos Amazon idea of if you're going to have a meeting, you're going to have a pre-printed 2 to 4 page document that summarizes all of the information that everybody needs to know for that meeting. And you spend the first 10 minutes of the meeting reading that document. I don't care if you already know all the information. It's 10 minutes. You read the documents. Once everybody's finished reading the document, now you have the meeting. Because otherwise, people talk past each other. A lot of people make assumptions. Some people come in, they have no idea what the meeting's about, but it's an important meeting, so I have to be here. And if I have to be in a meeting, well, I've got to talk for 20 to 30% of it because otherwise people will wonder what it is I do here. And that's a horrible waste of time. Let's see. Talking about too many meetings. We have a mandatory daily meeting for everyone to go around and say no issues. It's a complete waste of 30 minutes. Yeah, if it takes that long. So daily stand-ups, I think, can be very useful. But you have to do daily stand-up reasonably well. And I don't know that that sounds like a daily stand-up, but it can be frustrating if it's just this is a text file that I could add a line in instead of having a meeting. So that feels like a better use of that time. But daily stand up, best part of the day, tells me it's time for my morning snack. That's right. Although my daily stand ups were always at 3 p.m., so that I got to leave. That was my, all right, I'm done for the day time. How many people on your daily? Yeah, okay, my dailies also had 4 people, and we could technically be done within 3 minutes half the time, and we spend about 20 minutes BSing. Daily stand-ups shouldn't be micromanagement, Mala, not if they're done correctly, because the idea of the daily stand-up is not for the manager to say, here is what you need to do. It is for you to tell, here is what I am working on, here's what I plan to work on, and here is what's preventing me from doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing. So it's really supposed to just be quick update of where I'm at and is there anything blocking me so that the manager can step in and fix that problem.
But if he is around and accessible, he or she is around accessible all the time, why do you need that then? Like if I have a block that they can help with, I can just reach out on Slack or whatever. Why do I need a meeting for that?
You don't need a meeting for that necessarily. If
Yeah.
you know who's blocking you and you're already working with that person, that's cool.
Hmm.
As manager, it's something that I might want to know just because, especially if it's someone on another team and you're not getting satisfaction, then I can go talk to that team's manager and have that discussion. If it's something that you're handling yourself, I'd argue you're not necessarily blocked. There's some delay, but you're not stopped because you know what to do, you know the action to take, and if you're taking that action, you're doing something. So, um, yeah, I tend to be also a stand up is for standing type of person where I want like the idea of stand ups is it is supposed to be somewhat painful in the sense of you don't want to most people don't want to stand around for an entire meeting. Most people are not me. And so as a result, it like after 5 to 10 minutes, people start getting grouchy. I want to go sit back down. But yeah, that's the point of it. That's the to keep a person from filibustering during your stand up. Flogging of Kevin is not equal to a stand up. Yeah, especially because look, that ETL was pretty decent.
I can claim I know it fully even now. And it's been 5 years.
So, all right, how do you make meetings better? Identify and address your organization's productivity disruptors. So, Anders, they're calling you out right here. Radically rethink the workday. Think of meetings as a digital artifact and not just a point in time. These are not actions. Or if they are actions, they're dumb actions. This is, I don't think this is an appropriate answer to how do you make meetings less awful. There's a new AI employee alliance. Okay, so now we're finally getting to the AI portion. So far it's been meetings are dumb. Sometimes they're necessary. Okay, most people feel like they'd be comfortable using it for analytical and even creative work. Those people are bad at analytics and creativity. And so what are people using? Okay, AI's productivity promise. I mean, we'll see. But increasing productivity of employees, helping people out
So
with
why do you say it is bad at creativity, Kevin? Because I don't think it's terrible. I've been working with it. I suppose what they mean here as AI is generative AI. That's generalization that they don't want to explain, but that's what they really mean. Uh, it's decent at creativity depending on what kind of thing that you expect from it. It isn't that terrible creativity wise.
yeah, so when I say creative work,
Uh-huh.
um, a lot of creative work isn't creative, and that's where generative AI can step in. Like, hey, make me a PowerPoint deck for this meeting. That's
Mm-hmm.
not creative work. Um, but if you ask, okay, architect a solution to store transactional data for employee health records. Well,
Oh, it's not. That's not. Yeah, no, that's it's certainly not going to do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's creative. That actually involves somebody thinking and trying to apply rules to reality in a way to form something new.
Mm-hmm.
You don't tend to see a lot of that. Where I think these helpers, especially in the near term, where I think they can help is in handling mundane tasks. It's in handling, okay, formulate an email that explains these four things in a way that won't get me yelled at by my boss because I don't use enough words in my email. Fluff up the email. And it'll fluff up emails. Now, I think it fluffs them up a little bit too much. I learned about PSP at I mean, but then if you ask that exact thing into ChatGPT, even if one that was trained on data that included SQL Server 2022, to at what point do you expect it to start lying or to give bad information? Because it's not
Oh,
lying.
that's impossible to say. Yeah.
Like paragraph 2, that's about where I would expect it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, I'm being cynical there,
Mhm.
but I expect things, especially once you get past the fairly simple, I expect them to fall off very quickly
Mhm.
uh, into hallucination. And especially because PSP, like, oh, well, you're talking about the PlayStation Portable. So let me tell you about the PlayStation Portable instead of parameter sensitive plan optimization. Um, so yeah, you can. I think with what's available today, you can, like you said, Molly, you can take your ideas as a prompt and then have things get rewritten in a way that
Yeah,
is uh, potentially nicer, at least
yeah,
potentially clearer in intent.
right.
I don't know that there's a lot of proper creative work
Mm.
in the sense of generating something that is brand new
Uh-huh.
versus uh, derivative work like that,
Mm.
which
I don't think it's ever going to get to a point where it can re-architect something for you or not. That sort of stuff is not anytime soon. I don't think not in our lifetimes we
no,
can see it doing. That's not true. Or even rewrite the stored procedure for me is going to be pretty bad in
probably.
most cases. Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, something I've harped on quite a few times here is these are not truth. They're not truth models. They are not models of database development. They are not models of marketing. They are linguistic models. They are models of how words fit together in certain patterns. And that's all these things are doing is given some set of tokens and the prompt, which includes other sets of tokens, try to generate what is iteratively the next token that makes sense. That's all it's doing. There's no research. There's no grand design to the text that gets spit out. It's all gibberish from the standpoint of a thinking agent because
Hmm.
these agents don't think.
Hmm.
And that's why I would say you're going to have a real tough time rewriting a procedure, especially if you want it to work and you're expecting this to happen without a human intervening. Most employees don't think either. Yeah, that's fair.
So one way I like to think of it is as an option engine though. Like if you're stuck somewhere and you want ideas, just because of this kind of stuff it knows. Yeah. Like I was looking for some certifications some time ago on cross cultural communication, and I was not sure where exactly is a good point, and I went and asked it like, give me some options here because I want to do a longer presentation at the SQL Bits conference. I want to learn a few things formally, so teach men. The options it gave me are pretty good, like really good. I could have found it on Google, but I would have spent like 3 or 4 times the amount of time trying to find it. So as an option engine too, in some situations, it works pretty well.
Okay, I mean, I am happy to hear of positive scenarios of it, especially
Mm,
because I purposefully set myself out as like 12% more of a doomer than uh, I really am on the topic.
mhm, mhm,
In part because it's fun to have relatively hot takes.
mhm.
It's an enjoyable habit, but I also uh, tend to be very cynical about AI.
No, I think you also mean when you say AI, you mean generative AI, Kevin.
AI in general, like I, especially if we're talking about strong AI, where
Uh-huh.
you have the strong versus weak AI argument of strong AI
Yeah, yeah.
being a thinking human. Let's recreate an
Uh-huh.
artificial human.
Mhm.
And that's been the signpost for decades of, oh, we're just 20 years away. We're just 10 years away. And 10 years comes and we're just 10 years away. because I don't think that's possible.
Hmm.
Weak AI, yeah, absolutely, I think that's possible. That's obvious. That's in place today. Where weak AI
Hmm.
is, can you solve a certain specific task, uh, given that it is framed in a specific way?
Hmm.
And for many tasks, that answer is yes. Can you solve
Hmm.
chess? Yeah, a computer can solve chess. Can you solve Go? Yeah, a computer can solve Go. Can you read that this is a stop sign? Sometimes. As far as vision goes, the best vision readers for the past, and this is a problem that's been true for decades. Uh, Basically, vision is about at the level of a 3-year-old, where you can pick up that there are objects, but actually understanding that that is a stop sign versus that is not a stop sign, really difficult. And is why self-driving cars went from everyone's going to have one of these to, hey, are they still legal? Create a new role
Self-driving
playing.
trucks too. They tried trucks for some time.
Was that?
There were trucks on the road for some time.
There were
Like,
some, but
yeah. Hmm.
the major problem is, as far as the self-driving experiments go, the biggest problem is twofold. Number one, the companies do not want to take liability. That if their self driving machine runs into something else, they don't want to be liable for it because they say, oh, well, the driver was in the seat. The driver should have taken some action against that, and thus the driver is responsible. But the 95 to 98% of the time, when traffic conditions are easy and self driving works really well, life comes at you fast. So it's not like, oh, hey, in 45 seconds, I'm going to need you to swerve because something's going to come up 45 seconds from now. Instead, it's more of, oh, hey, you're driving really well. Oops, here comes a car that just swerved over 4 lanes and we didn't see it. And now I have to slam on the brakes, except that slamming on the brakes means we're going to rear end the car behind us. Or I hit a patch of road that I thought looked like another car, so I'm going to slam on the brakes and thereby completely confuse the driver behind me. Which both of those are examples of things that really have happened. And so that's where the idea of self-driving cars is really cool. The practice of self-driving cars is not great today.
Hmm.
Automated parallel parking. So parallel parking is something that is closer to a much easier solved problem
Hmm.
because you are expecting that the cars that you're parking in between are fixed, so there aren't a whole lot of things jumping around in that area. Which is why I think those auto parking solutions work significantly better than auto driving. The
Hmm.
the possible number of failure states is significantly lower. Automated interstate driving. So automated interstate driving works until it doesn't. It's the same idea that I mentioned there, where as soon as something happens and you're responsible for reacting quickly, the automated driving solution usually doesn't respond quickly enough for certain incidents. And that's where they want the liability to be on the driver. That, oh, well, that driver who was reading the newspaper or drinking a coffee should have been holding their hands on the steering wheel, but not so tight that they actually control it and move it anywhere. But they should have been holding their hands on the steering wheel and being ready for invasive maneuvers at any point in time. Because otherwise, the self driving car company might be liable, and they don't want those lawsuits.
So another thing that I personally found ChatGPT to be decent with is role playing for interviews. So if you are interested, if you haven't taken job interviews in a long time and you want some practice, back in the days I used to go talk, get somebody from the SQL community and say, I want a practice interview. Are you up for it? And then we fix a time and then do it together. Most people don't like that. They find it uncomfortable. They're worried about what that other person will think if you don't do well. You can use ChatGPT for that, and it does a decent job. Don't look for factually correct responses, but the style of going back and forth is like, what happens if you answer, and you can actually tell it that you expect the interviewer to be of a certain personality, like he or she is very anal, very specific, a certain way, or is in a very relaxed, chill kind of a person. Throw me some questions that I can expect, and it's really good with that. It is
Okay.
much better than trying it out with the person if that makes you uncomfortable. Of course, nothing beats trying it with an actual person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So AI is a co-pilot, and that's something that Microsoft has been pushing really hard at Build. Um, is this idea of Copilot everywhere, M365 copilots, and Microsoft Defender copilots, and security copilots, and all these other copilots that they've announced. Um, so enhanced Zippy, Clippy.
Clippy. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Clippy.
Uh, let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot in here that's selling me on this. I can download the full report if I want to, but give the hype 2 years. If it's still there, I'll read up on it. That's not a bad philosophy, especially for this, because it's going to be a couple of years before you see a lot of the really dumb ideas shake out, and you're left with some of the stuff that is reasonable. Like
Mm.
okay, so for example, automated setup of calendar invites. That Microsoft has had quietly for the past few years, where they'll have an automated service that will, based on what's available in your calendar, allow a person who wants to schedule a meeting with you to find an appropriate meeting time. And so, you have some of that. I think that kind of stuff can be reasonable. I think automated, here are my meeting notes, turn it into an email. I could see that being useful. I could see, given some rough notes, turn it into something that is more official. That's already happening, and I see that as perfectly reasonable. Yeah, automating various reception tasks. Right. So, taking notes from a meeting, you can get some of that. You could analyze the transcript and get some idea of topics. Sending emails, booking meetings, those sorts of things. Yes, I could see that being in the relatively near future. SQL, please remove all elevated permissions except mine. And then when it removes the app's permissions and everything breaks. Also, writing and art-related jobs are going to suffer impacts. Yeah, yeah. Especially the ones where people are already drawing like 4 fingers on hands or 6 fingers on hands. Those people are really going to suffer.
Also, content management in general, people who are hired for high quality content, they're still going to be there, but their jobs are going to look pretty different.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And, to an extent, I mean, my response there is, well, that's life. Like, we're not writing novels on typewriters from the 1930s. We're not, or handwriting manuscripts.
What does Anders mean? We are going to suffer from this? Say more. Like
Because of
substandard
lower quality
content,
of product.
that's been going on for a while. If you mean substandard content, that's not new.
Yeah,
That
Anders had,
started with self-publishing, in my opinion,
maybe,
to some
maybe.
degree. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, knowing how awful publishing houses are nowadays, I don't know.
right.
But I was just gonna make a joke that we've seen this. Like, for example, when's the last time a good cartoon came out? Actually, let me rephrase that. When's the last time a well drawn cartoon came out? Like, if you show
No.
me stuff from the 80s that were created in Korean houses where they paid people $1 an hour, but you know what? They created some really good looking cartoon art. You compare that to today, and it's all like 1990s Cartoon Network. Uh, I scribbled this on a cocktail napkin, and that's the quality of all of the design. Looney Tunes, Jungle Book, yeah, yeah. If you look at the old Disney classics, that level of animation was incredible.
Hmm.
Even if you're looking at television studio, Modern Animaniacs versus the other one. So I've never seen the Modern Animaniacs, and that was on purpose. I was very concerned that it would turn out to be bad. I didn't expect it to work, that it would work very well. But the modern one, the way it was drawn, it was still in that like late years of the Looney Tunes, the Warner Brothers studio, the art studio, and they still had a lot of that high quality in terms of graphic design and consistency. And it's just something you don't really see anymore, as far as I'm aware. Now, I can be wrong. I can absolutely be wrong on this. But it feels like that a lot of the most popular shows, animated shows, tend to have some really bad graphics. So we got that to look forward to. But somehow we have burned an entire hour and I only got through like half of the topics. So with that, I think I'm going to wrap things up for tonight. And uh, remember that our next meeting, so tomorrow is the first Tuesday of the month. Our next meeting will be on the 8th, second Tuesday of the month. That's our advanced DBA. 15th is our main meeting. And 22nd is our data science and BI meeting. So check all those out. We'll have those posted sometime in the next few days on meetup.com/tripass. And until we see each other in the next meeting or whenever, everyone, take care.
Bye.